Dawn, welcome to the podcast. It's a pleasure to have you on air.
Thank you, Michael. I,
Yes,
I appreciate you having me.
of course. So, Dawn LaFontaine is a lifelong animal lover who always seems to have a little bit of pet hair on her keyboard. I find that kind of funny. Her blog, Kitty Contemplations, helps cat guardians better understand and care for the special beings they share their lives and homes with. Her cat products business, Cat in the Box, sells beautiful, well-made, and award-winning products that she designed to meet the biological and psychological needs of cats. Dawn, welcome to the show. I have so many interesting questions to ask you. First and foremost, I'm actually curious, how did this journey start for you?
Well, it was kind of a twofold thing. On the one hand, I was at a real crossroads in my life. I was a stay-at-home mother for about 23 years. I hadn't held a traditional job in all that time. And so I was, facing, this decision about what the next step should be in my life. And at the same time, my husband was laid off from a job that he'd had for 15 years. He had just gotten the CEO's award. And he was the only non-scientist in a company of 25,000 people to get this award. It's a very prestigious award. And he was laid off
Hmm.
right after getting the award. And I'd always said, oh, if you ever lose your job, I'll run right out and get something. I've always been the kind of person that if I applied for a job, I was usually either offered the job or I was number two or close enough. And I applied for a bunch of jobs and I didn't get any of them, presumably because I'd been a stay-at-home mother for so long. So the two things going on there, the being at the crossroads, needing to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, and then this sense that if I was going to have a working future of any kind, that I was going to have to make one for myself, really drove me in the direction of starting my own business.
Cool. That's awesome. And why cats?
I, truly, I always felt that if I had a business, it would have something to do with animals. I love all animals. You're going to think we're crazy, but I mean, we've had pet rats, we've had everything. Me and my kids, we volunteered for a rat rescue. We volunteered for Greyhound Friends, which is an organization that helps rehabilitate racing greyhounds. And of course, I've always loved cats. But coincidentally, while this was all going on, I had read a Reader's Digest article about why cats are so cardboard box crazy. And, if you've ever been on the internet at all, you are probably aware that cats are crazy for cardboard boxes. But there's real science that explains why they are. And it just got me thinking, why do cat owners put up with dirty, ugly Amazon shipping boxes in their house? Why not something a little clever or cute?
Right.
And so I decided to design some myself.
Very cool. And so why would you say your products are different than what's traditionally out there, the ugly, messy cardboard boxes?
Well, when I first started, actually, it was the only product out there like this. So I make cardboard boxes. I have one that's a giant milk carton, one that's a humongous
Oh,
white
that's
wedge of
awesome.
cheese, a gingerbread house and these are not my only cat products, but a gingerbread house that people assemble just like a real gingerbread house and decorate with. These are cat safe, believe me. Candy stickers. They're little gumdrops and candy canes but they're stickers and people just love decorating at the holidays. So
Hmm.
nobody had anything like that at all when I started. Now, if you go on
Right.
Amazon, there's a bunch of what I consider to be thoughtlessly made fun cardboard box shapes, all kinds of things, but nothing that is out there that is like mine, where I put cats first in my design.
Right.
So it is
So,
it, it
yeah,
is unique.
you might have just preemptively answered my next question. My next question was, Don, what do you attribute to the success of your specific company? As in, what's your uniqueness factor? What's different about what you do compared to everyone else?
I mean, think I think cat first. I don't think, how can I make a lot of money at the expense
Hmm.
of some cats and cat guardians? And my thought always goes first to what what do cats need psychologically, behaviorally, emotionally, that they're not getting by being indoor cats, which I highly recommend that people keep their cats indoors. But there's, a detriment to cats to keeping them indoors, which is that they don't necessarily get all of their needs met. I'm thinking cat
Hmm.
first, and I'm also thinking cat guardian first. In other words, how can my products help cat people bond with their pets? And also, how can I help people enjoy having pet items in their homes? A lot of cat items historically have been cheap and cheaply made, unattractive,
Hmm.
the kind of things that and you certainly don't want an Amazon box in your house if you don't have to have one. But just
Right.
that cat was never a lot of emphasis put on making quality, beautiful cat items. So I like to think of cat guardians that way, that this is something that they can be proud. My products are things that they can be proud to display in their homes.
Very cool. So you mentioned when you started out, there wasn't much competition, and now the industry is kind of has a little more of a competitive landscape. My question to you is, given from where you started to where you are now, if you were to take a time machine in 5 years from now, where do you see yourself and your company?
I mean, I actually see myself in the exact same place, but with more
Really?
offerings because there really just isn't enough out there for cats. And I want them to have interesting, fulfilling lives. As a real animal lover, that's really important to me with the pets that I have, that they, have a short time here on Earth, and I want them to feel fulfilled and that their lives were not boring. So everything that I do is about trying to get more products out there. I mean, if you are, I don't know if you're a dog lover too, we have dogs as well. So that you can go and you could buy a $60 stuffed animal for a dog. I mean, you could buy anything. The dog market is filled with really interesting puzzle toys for dogs and beautifully made things and expensive things
Right.
and just the variety is unending. And if you go to Petco, the cat aisle is some little crinkly balls, some little foam balls, and some poor quality stuffed mice. And cats deserve better.
Right. So I was scared to admit that I like dogs too. So I always thought it was one or the other. But
No,
I'm
no,
glad
no,
that
absolutely not.
I'm I'm glad we eased on that tension. I know I love your energy, and I love how passionate you are for the cause rather than
Thank you.
the economic incentive. Well, before we started this podcast, we were talking for a bit, and there was a question that came up about uh, you know, why you think older people make better entrepreneurs. Although I can answer that question.
I want to hear your
I'm
answer
really
first.
well, I mean, they've been in
Tread
life longer.
carefully,
They
Michael.
have more. Yeah, I am. I'm really careful here. No, I'm kidding. For a million reasons, but to be honest, there's wisdom, there's insight, there's grit, there's a better refined perspective in the world, and the priorities are better aligned. So that can only make a better entrepreneur, where you care more about what matters and you're better at achieving it. So that would be my answer.
That's a good answer. I like your answer. And in fact, part of my answer was about that, about the idea that I've been around the block a little bit, and my compatriots in my my age bracket. I'm 60.
You look
That
great. You look amazing. You
thanks,
should have never told
thank
me.
you.
I would have never guessed.
That's all right. That's all right. I think Well, anyway, but I mean, I also know what it's like to be a consumer. I mean, I've had 60, frustrating years of dealing with other companies, and some of the
Mm.
best compliments that I've received as a business owner have been, "This is the best customer service experience I've ever had," and so that's that kind of relationship with my customers. Even if I end up losing money by taking care of somebody and doing the right thing, I'm not saying people are crazy and they're always going to try and pull one over on somebody else. But I'm saying genuine people really, deserve to be treated better. Even if I don't make money on a sale, or even if I lose money on a sale, I want to treat people right. And so I've had some of the nicest things that people have said have been that this is the best customer service experience I've ever had. So that is one place where we strongly overlap in our view about older people. And the only other thing I would
I
add to that maybe is that,
no, I
I
absolutely
mean,
love
I
that
grew up
answer. That was great.
Thanks. I grew up, I mean, you're not going to believe this, Michael, but there was no internet when I was growing up. There was no cell phones. I mean, I literally had a rotary dial phone at some point in my life. So when I needed an answer to something, when my husband and I were first married and we were trying to fix up our house, like we were trying to put hardwood floors in our house, like I had to I went from store to store to store, picking everybody's brain. I went to Home Depot. I went to every flooring store, and I learned how to do hardwood floors. I mean, really pounding the pavement quite literally to get answers to questions. You couldn't just Google it. You just couldn't look up a YouTube video because that hadn't even been invented yet. So I really
Mm,
do know how to get what I need. I mean, I know where to go, who to ask. I'm not afraid to ask anybody anything. And
love it.
so I think that's another advantage. I mean, the purse that it takes to have grown up and been a young adult when I was a young adult. I just think that's something. I mean, I have adult kids now. They just missed out on all of that. It's kind of unfortunate, but that's
Yeah,
just the
well,
way it
every
is.
generation has their pros and cons, and looking at it from a previous generation, you can definitely notice where things have changed, not for the best. But I absolutely love your answer. And this will be a great example of, where, we're able to talk
Right.
and we're able to have conversations and we live
That's it.
in different states. So things, it's not, there's no necessarily objective good or bad. It's more of just, this is your context, and we just got to ride that wave to the best we can.
Which we're all trying, right?
Yeah. So you also mentioned something about how doing business, and this is a perfect segue because you talk about how doing business like brick and mortar physically at a store as opposed to this whole e-commerce evolution of where we, transact online. And then you talked about marginalized individuals. Explain to me how this plays in between the difference of just physical locations and transacting e-commercely.
Well, it comes into play in a myriad of ways. I was born in the 60s. In the 70s, women still had to get their husband's signature to get a credit card. So
Wow.
while we've come a
I didn't
long
know that.
way from then, we have not come all the way. And there's still prejudice if you were to try and, as a woman or as a person of color to, get a business loan. There's a very low barrier to entry with e-commerce. I started my business really with a few $100.
Hmm.
I mean, it ended up being more than that eventually. It quickly
Is
gets
it
out
is
of
it
hand.
because is it because you avoid the problems you would get given that there's this barrier online?
Well, that's the
You're saying,
second part. The first part is how do you open a traditional business, a brick and mortar store, a little stationery store, a little pet store, if you're a female or a person of color, and if there's any prejudice at your local,
hmm,
lending institution. That automatically, because it's democratic. Anybody can sign up for Shopify or
wow,
WooCommerce. Anybody, so you can start a business without anybody's thumbs up on e-commerce. And then the other, which is what you just mentioned, is that you're hiding behind a computer effectively. And, people do get to know me personally, through my blog, through my social media accounts. I mean, people literally every single day send me letters on email or on, DMs about their cats, but they initially don't really know who they're buying from. And so
wow,
any, prejudgments that they might have about buying from an older woman or buying from, whatever their particular prejudices are, whether they're conscious or not, those go away behind, some software.
got it. Very interesting.
Although you've
So,
outed me now, right?
it's all good. We're learning a lot, and I definitely admire your wisdom. Um, on that note, what would you give advice to someone who is a little older and maybe even retired, or who's in their 60s and they're looking to get started with a new venture in life? What would be your number one piece of advice for them?
My first piece of advice would be do it, because this has been the most exciting thing I've ever done, the
Yeah.
most intellectually challenging thing I've ever done, and really very rewarding, especially for somebody who, wondered what am I going to do when the kids move away and grow up. And, I've had some, pretty significant achievements in the last few years that I'm really proud of. I would say put aside any of your fears about I don't know how to do this, and you're gonna learn it. You're gonna have to. You just day by day, like then you face the next thing, and then you learn how to. I mean, I remember I got my first order. I literally didn't know how to print out the little postage stickers that go on the order. I mean, I didn't know how to. I mean, I got to get this order out, and I do not know how to ship it. So you face everything as it comes to you, and you will learn it if you can persevere. And the other thing I would say to that person is join a community, because that's what I do.
It's
I
great
have a
advice.
regular focus group of women. I mean, I belong to a couple different e-commerce related communities, courses, communities, whatever you want to call them. But probably the most valuable thing for me is my focus group of when we meet every Thursday. We all have different businesses. We're all roughly the same age. And it's pretty amazing that, when I have a question, one of the other women has already been through it. They can help. They can help me make suggestions. And even if they haven't been through the exact same thing, they can point me in a direction, or they could say, oh, you need to talk to this person, or, you know, there's a great resource over here. So join a community. It's really hard to do it all by yourself. And there's really just no reason to reinvent the wheel. Let people have gone before you, take advantage of their experience.
Hmm. Well said. And I love your brute force approach to life. Yeah. Sometimes, you're never ready. No, you're never ready for anything. You just do it and
Right.
you fail forward.
Right. And if
And
you
you're
cannot
better
think too
off.
far ahead, I mean, the analysis paralysis, I see it all the time. Well, I'm not going to be able to do that. And how am I going to get the money for that?
Right.
Well, when you get there, that's when you face it. You don't have to face it all today.
Correct.
Mhm.
It's such a pragmatic, common sense approach to life.
Mhm.
And that perspective is normally blinded by self-doubt
Right.
or just laziness. Like when you want something, you just do it. And like that's how you learn to ride a bike. You don't understand what it's like to ride a bike. You get on there
Right.
and you fall a few
And you don't
times
have
and
to
you figure
plan
it out.
for a 100-mile trek. Your first bike
Correct.
ride is down the street. That's as far as you have to go.
Correct.
Hmm.
Correct. You're building this palace. I love these analogies we're throwing at each other. You know, you worry too much. Today you have this brick in your hand. You want to place this brick as perfectly, beautifully as possible. And once in a while, you can take a step back and assess how it all looks and admire, where it's going. But, you really want to focus most of your energy on getting today's task done as best as possible, because that's the best way to get to where you want to get to. Dawn, thank you so much for your wisdom. And I admire and look up to everything you've done up until now. And
That's sweet of you to say.
I look forward to seeing where you're at in 5 years from now, and I hope it's exactly where you want it to be.
Hey, and you as well. I'd love to see where this podcast is in 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. How can people reach you?
Well, the best way to find me is on my website. It's thecatisinthebox.com. You can also find my email address if you want to reach out to me personally on the website. But you can also find me on social media. Instagram is where I'm most active. It's The Cat is in the Box with periods between the words. You'll have no trouble finding me there. Feel free to reach out.
Great. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.